When I was a little kid, my family, they actually were baptized, but I wasn't old enough. I wasn't 8 yet, and so I didn't get baptized. And my sister and my brother, my mom and dad, were all the ones that got baptized. And after that, I have memories of going to church and everything like that, and going to like primary and stuff. And I remember my mom teaching me how to pray and everything. And I think just out of nowhere, we stopped going for some reason. Like, I was still a kid, so I have no clue why or anything like that, but I was still relatively young when it happened. Young enough to not be baptized. And so I had no clue or understanding of family issues or troubles or anything that was going on. And eventually my parents split up. Sorry. And then I think when I was around 12 years old, my mom actually passed away. And that was pretty rough on me. And I was always wondering, like, where my mom went and stuff like that. I was always wondering if I would ever really see her again. And my dad ended up remarrying about 2 years later. And for some reason, I started like really thinking about my mom around that time, probably because there's a new person in my life. And I started having like those memories come back to me of like being in primary, my mom praying with me and everything like that. And I asked my dad if we were ever gonna maybe go back to church one day. And he said we could. And we started going again. And he was like off and on. But eventually the missionaries kind of saw that, oh, hey, this family's got a little bit of potential to have one unbaptized kid. And my stepmom and stepsister weren't baptized either. So they started coming over and teaching us. And I ended up getting baptized with them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that was my conversion story. Because I think after I turned 15, like, I still wasn't very strong at all. I didn't really have a big understanding of it. And so there were like times between like being 15 and 18 where I'd stop going to church for months at a time, and then I would start going again and stop and go and stop and go. And I think eventually, by the time that we were kind of like in some financial troubles with our house and everything like that, with my mom passing away, like medical bills to pay and everything like that, our house got foreclosed on. And so we had to sell it, but my dad wanted to move over to Florida with my stepmom because she had family there, a place to stay there. And so what happened was I went to my bishop at that time. Luckily, I was going to church at that time, or else I would have been long gone. I probably wouldn't have gone to church if I went to Florida. But I went to the bishop and I asked him if he could maybe find me a place to stay. And he found me a place to stay with a counselor in the stake presidency and his wife. And I ended up staying with them for almost 2 years. And when I was with them, they kind of taught me what a real like gospel family was like and everything like that. And they kind of helped me out. They like kind of like nurtured me, gave me that nourishment that a kid needs, like a really good, stable, church-going family and everything like that. And they gave that to me. And that was pretty important. And that kind of reshaped me in a way. And I started going to church. I started making changes in my life to make myself more worthy and stuff like that. And I eventually applied for BYU. And I got in here. And my conversion kind of happened here at BYU when I was going through a really, really difficult time because a girl that I dated for a long time, we broke up. And because I spent so much time with her, I kind of didn't have any other relationships to go off of, like with friends and stuff like that. Like I had friends and roommates and stuff, but I didn't have like really solid relationships or friendships to go to for help and everything like that. So I felt really alone and isolated. And I don't really know what happened, but I started just making wrong choices with things. And eventually I just felt like I was just in such a deep hole that I couldn't get myself out of. I just decided one day that I was just going to pick up my stuff and just leave and go back home. And before I did that, it was really pathetic. I went up to the Y by myself. I got some Taco Bell. And I started porking out on it, just feeling sorry for myself. And then I was just like, that's it. I'm going back home, packing up my stuff, and I'm leaving. And so I turned on my car and I started going down the mountain, and this little voice came to me. And it said, you need to go look at the temple. And so I obeyed it. I said, what do I have to lose? And so I obeyed it. Sorry. So I decided to do it. And I went and I parked my car. And I was looking at the temple for a little while. And I think that's kind of when it hit me. That everything that I was doing in my life, like, I needed to fix it. I needed to get back on track. I needed, to gain a stronger testimony. But at that time, the Spirit really testified to me that everything was true. And probably the most important thing for me to do is go serve a mission. And before that, like, kind of being in the church a little bit, growing up around that age, people are like, are you going to serve a mission? I'm like, yeah, sure. But deep down inside, nobody really knew that I didn't want to, which was really interesting. And it really hit me at that time that was something important that I needed to do. And from that moment on, I was just like, these things are true. I need to get back on track. And so I did. I fixed what I needed to fix. And I started preparing to serve a mission that way. And during that time is when I really started getting testimony that everything was true.